The book of Judges, chapter 1. Now after the death of Joshua, it came to pass that the children of Israel asked the Lord, saying, Who shall go up for us against the Canaanites first to fight against them? And the Lord said, Judah shall go up. Behold, I have delivered the land into his hand. And Judah said unto Simeon his brother, Come up with me into my lot, that we may fight against the Canaanites. And I likewise will go with thee into thy lot. So Simeon went with him. And Judah went up, and the Lord delivered the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hand, and they slew of them in Bezek 10,000 men. And they found Adonibezek in Bezek, and they fought against him, and they slew the Canaanites and the Perizzites. But Adonibezek fled, and they pursued after him, and caught him, and cut off his thumbs and his great toes. And Adonibezek said, 70 kings, having their thumbs and their great toes cut off, gathered their meat under my table. As I have done, so God hath requited me. And they brought him to Jerusalem, and there he died. And the children of Judah had fought against Jerusalem, and had taken it, and smitten it with the edge of the sword, and set the city on fire. And afterward the children of Judah went down to fight against the Canaanites that dwelt in the mountain, and in the south, and in the valley. And Judah went against the Canaanites that dwelt in Hebron. Now the name of Hebron before was Kirjath Arba, and they slew Sheshai, and Ahiman, and Talmai. And from thence he went against the inhabitants of Debir, and the name of Debir before was Kirjath Sepher. And Caleb said, He that smiteth Kirjath Sepher and taketh it, to him will I give Achsah my daughter to wife. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it, and he gave him Achsah his daughter to wife. And it came to pass, when she came to him, that she moved him to ask of her father a field. And she lighted from off her ass, and Caleb said unto her, What wilt thou? And she said unto him, Give me a blessing, for thou hast given me a south land. Give me also springs of water. And Caleb gave her the upper springs and the nether springs. And the children of the Kenite, Moses' father-in-law, went up out of the city of palm trees with the children of Judah into the wilderness of Judah, which lieth in the south of Arad, and they went and dwelt among the people. And Judah went with Simeon his brother, and they slew the Canaanites that inhabited Zephath, and utterly destroyed it. And the name of the city was called Hormah. And Judah took Gaza with the coast thereof, and Ashkelon with the coast thereof, and Ekron with the coast thereof. And the Lord was with Judah, and he drave out the inhabitants of the mountain, but could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley, because they had chariots of iron. And they gave Hebron unto Caleb, as Moses said, and he expelled thence the 3 sons of Anak. And the children of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites that inhabited Jerusalem, but the Jebusites dwell with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem unto this day. And the house of Joseph, they also went up against Bethel, and the Lord was with them. And the house of Joseph sent to describe Bethel. Now the name of the city before was Luz. And the spies saw a man come forth out of the city, and they said unto him, Show us, we pray thee, the entrance into the city, and we will show thee mercy. And when he showed them the entrance into the city, they smote the city with the edge of the sword. But they let go the man and all his family. And the man went into the land of the Hittites, and built a city, and called the name thereof Luz, which is the name thereof unto this day. Neither did Manasseh drive out the inhabitants of Bethshean and her towns, nor Tanakh and her towns, nor the inhabitants of Dor and her towns, nor the inhabitants of Ibleam and her towns, nor the inhabitants of Megiddo and her towns, but the Canaanites would dwell in that land. And it came to pass, when Israel was strong, that she put the Canaanites under to tribute, and did not utterly drive them out. Neither did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites that dwelt in Gezer, but the Canaanites dwelt in Gezer among them. Neither did Zebulun drive out the inhabitants of Kitron, nor the inhabitants of Nahalol, but the Canaanites dwelt among them and became tributaries. Neither did Asher drive out the inhabitants of Akko, nor the inhabitants of Zidon, nor of Alab, nor of Achzib, nor of Helba, nor of Aphik, nor of Rehob, but the Asherites dwelt among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, for they did not drive them out. Neither did Naphtali drive out the inhabitants of Bethshemesh, nor the inhabitants of Bethanath, but he dwelt among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land. Nevertheless, the inhabitants of Bethshemesh and of Bethanath became tributaries unto them. And the Amorites forced the children of Dan into the mountain, for they would not suffer them to come down to the valley. But the Amorites would dwell in Mount Heres, in Ajalon, and in Shaalbim. That the hand of the house of Joseph prevailed, so that they became tributaries. And the coast of the Amorites was from the going up of Akrabim, from the rock, and upwards. Here we have the book of Judges, it's 21 chapters, and it's an interesting but very sad time in Israel's history. We have a few individuals who are remarkable in the same way that Joshua and Moses were remarkable in their time with the history of the people of Israel. But these judges were by and large local officials, not officials over all of the 12 tribes. And what happened really was that the loyalty to the tribe replaced loyalty to the nation of Israel. And so instead of working together, they relied upon their own abilities. Each tribe did, looked inward to itself. And as we see in this chapter, the people didn't get rid of all the people they were supposed to, and the people became a trap and a snare to the people of Israel. And eventually, there was intermarriage with the people. There was worshiping of their false gods. Every bad possible thing that could happen happened, and some of it was led by absolutely terrible examples like Samson. And we'll find out about Samson and Delilah and that a little later on in chapters. But it isn't until we actually hit the book of Ruth, which follows Judges, that the attitudes and the history of Israel actually take an upward swing. And the Judges is not a fun time for the people of Israel. We know that the Philistines lived on the coast. The Philistines had iron. They had iron spears and iron technology. And we also know that the Israelites did not. They didn't even have a blacksmith. And so it represents an interesting situation when you are under the thumb of people who have greater technology than you do. We don't think of iron as a great technology because it's very readily available, but in those days it was very rare, hard to come by, and so much better. If you had a brass sword and you were fighting against somebody that had an iron sword, they could chop your sword in half. And there might be 1,000 Israelite soldiers, but they would have slings, and as deadly as slings could be when they threw pretty good sized rocks. When you're going against guys that have helmets and armor, they aren't as effective as when they're going against something that doesn't have armor, doesn't have helmets, and doesn't have shields. And so we're going to read about these wonderful people, the few wonderful people, and we're going to read about the history of the Judges. And but we already know they're in trouble because they don't do the things they're supposed to do. They don't get rid of the people that they need to get rid of in order to have the blessings of the Lord. And that was so necessary for them. They covenanted to do it, and then they just left it. No wonder they were having a tough time.